Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Colonel Ash Worthington. We warmly welcome the family of Private Thomas Henry Fitzgerald, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors and students on behalf of Victoria Park State School, Mackay, Queensland. Could I ask you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem? The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Thomas Fitzgerald. Known to his friends and family as Tom, Thomas Henry Fitzgerald was born in 1890 in Port Adelaide, South Australia, the second son of John and Annie Fitzgerald. Thomas attended Sisters of St Joseph's and Marist Brothers schools in Adelaide and went on to work as a clerk in the Colonial Sugar Refinery at Glanville. In September 1917, Thomas Fitzgerald enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force at Adelaide. After a period of training at Mitchin and Cheltenham camps, he sailed for England with a reinforcement group for the 10th Battalion. After several months' training on the Salisbury Plains in Wiltshire, he embarked for France and joined the 10th Battalion at the village of Vignacourt on the Somme. Fitzgerald had joined the battalion at one of the most critical periods of the war. Several weeks earlier, German troops had launched a major offensive on the Western Front that succeeded in breaking the deadlock of trench warfare and threatened the vital supply and transport hub of Amiens. If Amiens fell to the Germans, the British and the French armies would be severed along the Somme River. The Australians were spared the heaviest fighting during the offensive, but managed to blunt the German advance. Over the following weeks, their task was to establish a number of defensive positions around Amiens in preparation for the Allies' own counter-offensive. One of those defensive positions lay to the north of the rail juncture at Strasille. Here, the 10th Battalion spent the following weeks preparing for further German attacks. The 10th Battalion rotated in and out of the line over the following weeks, carrying out a rigorous regimen of patrolling and raiding when it occupied the frontline positions. Around 2 a.m. on the morning of the 9th of May 1918, Fitzgerald's platoon was moving up the line to relieve the 12th Battalion when they were engaged by German machine gun fire. Fitzgerald was badly wounded on the legs and the side. He was evacuated through a series of aid posts and dressing stations, but succumbed to his wounds later that day. He was buried at the Eblingham Military Cemetery. He was 28 years old. Thomas Fitzgerald's older brother, Bill, had also enlisted in the AIF. Bill survived the war, but was seriously wounded in fighting near Armentières in May 1917 and spent many years recovering in the Keswick Military Hospital after his return to Australia. Thomas Fitzgerald's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of sacrifice and service told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Thomas Fitzgerald, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. I beg your pardon. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.